The river's water shimmered under the late afternoon sun. A gentle breeze swayed the tall reeds, and birds sang from the trees nearby. But Amina's hands froze mid-wash. Just a few steps away, standing half in the water, was a goat. At least it looked like a goat, its legs, its brown fur, its twitching tail, but its head was human. The face was that of an old man, wrinkled and dark, with eyes that seemed to hold storms inside them. His lips moved, and in a low, raspy voice, he whispered her name. "Amina. Your village will burn before the next moon unless you." Her breath caught in her throat. The goat's eyes glowed faintly, and its strange human mouth curled into a knowing smile. Before she could ask what it meant, it took one step closer. In the quiet riverside village of Ibakun, life was simple but full of rhythm. The people rose with the sun, their days marked by the sound of pestles pounding yam, goats bleating, and the laughter of children running barefoot through the dusty paths. The river was the lifeline of the village. It was where women fetched water, washed clothes, and shared news. On market days, fishermen brought their catch to the shore, the silver fish glittering in baskets woven from palm leaves. Amina, the daughter of the village potter, was known for her kindness. She always greeted elders with a smile, shared her food with children who had none, and helped her father carry heavy clay pots to the market. Her father, Baba Musa, often told her, "Kindness is a pot. Fill it for others and one day it will hold water for you." Life had its small troubles, but nothing the community couldn't fix together. If someone's roof leaked, neighbors would gather with palm fronds and mud to patch it up. If a goat wandered into a farm, the owner would come laughing, apologizing, and making it right. There was a deep trust between them all. But lately there had been whispers. Strange things were happening in nearby villages. Crops drying overnight, goats found stiff in their pens, and even the river water turning bitter for a day. The elders said it was just bad luck, but some of the women at the river had begun talking about old spirits that walked the earth when they were angry. Amina never paid much attention to such talk. She believed that as long as you treated people and nature well, no harm would come. That was until the day she went to the river alone. The sun was warm on her back, the water cool against her skin. She was humming a song her mother used to sing, wringing out her wrapper, when she noticed the ripples. A set of slow, deliberate ripples coming toward her, not like the usual splash of a fish. She turned, expecting to see one of the neighbor's goats or perhaps a child playing. What she saw made her heart pound. A goat was walking slowly along the riverbank, its fur glistening with water. But instead of a goat's head, it had the face of an old man she had never seen before. His eyes locked on hers. Her first instinct was to run, but her legs would not move. The creature stepped into the shallow water until it was almost beside her, and then its mouth opened to speak. Said her name. And then it whispered something that made her blood run cold. Amina's mouth went dry. The goat with the human head leaned closer, its hot breath mixing with the cool breeze off the river. "Amina," it whispered again. "Before the next moon, fire will sweep through Ibakun. If you wish to save your people, find the tree that bleeds." She blinked. What do you mean?" But before she could finish, the creature stepped back into the deeper part of the river. Its human face began to fade, melting away into an ordinary goat's head. The glow in its eyes dimmed, and without another sound, it walked up the bank and vanished into the forest. Amina stood frozen for a moment, heart hammering in her chest. The water clung to her skin, but it felt colder now, as if the river itself had listened to the warning. She quickly dressed and ran home. When she reached her father's compound, Baba Musa was shaping a large clay pot. He looked up with a smile, but it faded when he saw her pale face. "What happened, Amina?" he asked. She hesitated. Would he even believe her? Most elders scoffed at talk of spirits these days, but she couldn't keep it to herself. She told him everything. How the goat appeared, the human face, the whisper about fire, and the strange command to find the tree that bleeds. Her father frowned deeply, his hands still on the half-formed pot. "A tree that bleeds. That is an old tale. I have not heard it since I was a boy. What does it mean? They say there is a tree in the deep forest. When you cut its bark, red sap flows like blood. But it is far, Amina, and the path is full of danger. No one goes there unless they have no other choice. She swallowed hard. And if this creature spoke the truth? If the fire comes? Baba Musa sighed. You must not speak of this to anyone yet. Fear spreads faster than truth. Let me talk to the elders. That evening, the elders gathered under the old baobab tree in the center of the village. Baba Musa spoke quietly to them while Amina waited nearby. She could hear their murmurs. Goat with a human head. A girl's imagination. Tree that bleeds. Only hunters talk of such things. Chief Adewale, the oldest of them all, finally spoke. We will watch for signs. If there is danger, we will prepare. But I see no reason to trouble the people now. Amina's chest tightened. They didn't believe her. 2 nights later, she woke to a strange smell, smoke. She ran outside, but it wasn't from a fire in the village. It came from the west, from the nearby hills. The wind carried it toward Ibukun. The warning flashed in her mind. Before the next moon. She knew then that she couldn't just wait. If the elders wouldn't act, she would have to find the tree herself. At dawn, she packed a small bag with dried yam, groundnuts, and a calabash of water. She tied her wrapper tight, grabbed her walking stick, and stepped quietly past her sleeping father's hut. The forest loomed ahead, dark and thick, and somewhere inside was the tree that bled, along with whatever dangers the old story spoke of. She took her first step in, the shadows swallowing her, when she heard movement in the bushes. The sound came again, dry leaves shifting, a low rustle in the undergrowth. Amina gripped her walking stick tighter. Who's there? She called, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry through the forest. The bushes parted, and out stepped a boy about her age, barefoot, with a sling across his shoulder and a small bag of palm nuts hanging at his side. His hair was wild, his eyes sharp, and there was a smirk on his lips. You walk loud for someone in the deep forest, he said. Are you trying to wake the spirits? I am not afraid of spirits, Amina said quickly, though her heart was still racing. Who are you? Name's Oba, he said, tossing a nut into his mouth. Hunter's son. I saw you leave the village before dawn. You're either running away or chasing trouble. I'm not running away, she replied. And it's not trouble I'm chasing, it's a warning I'm following. She told him in brief about the goat with a human head and its strange message. Oba's smirk faded. I've heard of the bleeding tree, he said slowly. My father says it's cursed. But if your story is true, the danger is worse than the curse. He glanced into the deeper forest. You'll never find it alone. Pass twist here. Spirits lead you in circles until you starve. I can take you, but there's a price. Amina narrowed her eyes. What price? Half of whatever you find at the tree, he said simply. Whether it's gold, magic, or a cure. I'm not looking for treasure, she said. Then you won't miss giving me half, Oba replied with a grin. Reluctantly, Amina agreed. She knew she needed a guide. The forest thickened as they walked. The sun barely pierced through the leaves, casting green shadows on the ground. Strange calls echoed from unseen creatures, and every so often, Oba would stop suddenly, tilt his head, and motion for her to be quiet. By midday, they came to a stream with water as black as night. A narrow log lay across it. Oba started to cross, but a loud thunk made him stop. An arrow stuck into the log right in front of his foot. They looked up to see 3 figures step out from behind the trees, men with painted faces, carrying bows and wearing necklaces made of animal teeth. This is our hunting ground, one of them said. No strangers pass without an offering. Oba whispered to Amina. They're not just hunters, they're forest wardens. And if we can't pay them, they'll turn us back. Amina's mind raced. She had little food, no money, and only her walking stick. The leader's eyes fell on her small calabash of water. That will do, he said. But she knew if she gave it up, they might not survive the rest of the journey. Still, the men stepped closer, hands tightening on their bows. Amina's grip tightened on the calabash. The water inside was barely enough for the two of them to last another day, and the forest ahead looked endless. Giving it up would be as good as walking to their deaths. But the three forest wardens were closing in, bows half drawn, eyes hard. Oba leaned close and whispered, "I can distract them. When I do, you run." "No," Amina whispered back. "We need a plan that keeps us both alive." Her eyes darted to the stream, black, still, and almost oily looking. She remembered the elders' tales. This water was cursed. Anyone who drank from it would wander the forest forever, unable to find their way out. Amina took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Great hunters," she said, keeping her voice calm, "I can give you something better than my water." The leader frowned. "Better?" "Yes. My water is from the sacred well of Ibukun," she lied. "If you drink it, you will be safe from the curse of this stream. Without it, the stream will steal your path, and you will never go home." The men exchanged uneasy glances. Even fierce hunters feared the forest's curses. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Prove it." Amina pretended to take a small sip, then offered the calabash to him. He drank greedily, and so did the other two. But in truth, she had only tilted the calabash. None of the real water had left it. They had only tasted a few drops from its rim. She smiled faintly. "Now the stream will not harm you. And we will pass without trouble, yes." The leader hesitated, then waved them through. "Go. But if you lied, the forest will deal with you." Oba grinned as they crossed the log. "You trick better than a fox." 4 hours they pushed deeper into the forest. The air grew thicker, the ground damp underfoot. Strange plants with red-veined leaves twisted toward them as they passed, and the sound of dripping water echoed all around. By sunset, they reached a small clearing where a massive termite mound stood like a fortress. Oba stopped suddenly. "This is where we rest," he said. "No farther at night. The forest is different after dark." They built a small fire and shared some dried yam and palm nuts. The crackling flames kept the worst of the shadows away, but Amina couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When the moon rose high, a faint sound drifted through the trees, low, rhythmic, like someone humming an old song. Oba's eyes widened. "That's no bird." The humming grew louder, and then, from the edge of the firelight, a tall figure appeared. It was wrapped in leaves, its face hidden, its arms long and thin. It pointed a bony finger at Amina. "Daughter of Ibukun," it said in a hollow voice. "The bleeding tree knows you are coming." Amina's heart thudded. "Who are you?" The figure stepped closer, the firelight glinting off eyes as pale as moonlight. "I am its first guardian, and if you take one more step toward it, you will not leave this forest alive." The fire popped and hissed, but neither Amina nor Oba moved. The guardian's pale eyes locked on her as if seeing straight through her skin and into her thoughts. "The bleeding tree is not what you think," the voice echoed. "It does not save, it remembers. And it punishes." Amina swallowed hard. "Punishes who?" The guardian tilted its head. "Those who take without giving. Those who disturb its roots. And those who come without the blessing of the river spirits." Oba leaned forward. "We don't want to harm the tree. We're here because the village is in danger." The guardian's gaze shifted to him, sharp and cold. "Danger comes because danger is called. You cannot step into the forest's heart without awakening the old debts." Amina stood slowly. "If you mean the fire, I didn't call it. A goat with a human head told me to find the tree, or Ibukun will burn before the next moon." The guardian's body stiffened, the leaves around it rustling as if in a sudden wind. "The one who walks between skins," it murmured. "If it sent you, then the tree has chosen to speak. But be warned, girl. Every answer it gives will demand a price. And the price is never gold." Before she could ask what that meant, the guardian stepped back into the shadows. The leaves seemed to fold over it until it was gone, leaving only the whisper of its voice. Turn back, or trade something you cannot get back. Oba let out a long breath. Well, that wasn't terrifying at all, he muttered. Amina stared into the fire. The warning rattled in her chest, but so did the memory of smoke rolling toward her village. We can't turn back, she said. Not now. If the tree has answers, I'll pay whatever it asks. Even if it's your life. Oba asked quietly. She didn't answer. The next morning they left the termite mound and pressed deeper into the forest. The air grew heavier, thick with the smell of wet earth and something faintly metallic, like blood. By midday, they reached a place where the trees grew so close together that no sunlight touched the ground. Their roots twisted like snakes, and the soil squelched with each step. Then they heard it, a slow, steady drip. Drip, drip. They followed the sound until they saw it. A tree taller than any in the forest, its bark dark and rough, its base wrapped in thick vines. From a fresh cut in the trunk, thick red sap oozed down like liquid blood. The bleeding tree, Oba whispered. But before Amina could step closer, a deep rumble shook the ground. The vines at the base of the tree began to writhe, and from the shadows, something huge and many-eyed uncoiled itself. The second guardian had arrived. Its voice was a low growl. Only one question you may ask. Ask wrongly, and you will never leave. The creature's body glistened in the dim light, thick, scaled, and coiled like a serpent, but with 6 black eyes set in a face that was almost human. Its voice was like thunder wrapped in a whisper. One question, it repeated, the words heavy as stone. Choose well, child of Ibukun. Amina's mind spun. If she asked the wrong thing, they might never leave this place alive. Oba stepped closer to her. Think, he murmured. If you only get one answer, it must lead us to stopping the fire. The guardian's eyes narrowed. You may not whisper in secret. Ask now. Amina took a breath. What must I do to stop the fire from destroying my village? The guardian's coils shifted, its voice rolling out like distant thunder. Return to the river where the walker between skins found you. At midnight, under the dying moon, pour the blood of the tree into the water. Then speak its name 3 times. Amina's pulse quickened. What is its name? The guardian's eyes glinted. You have asked your one question. Her stomach dropped. But without the name. The creature reared back. The forest gives only what you earn. The name lies with the oldest tongue in Ibukun. Find it before the moon dies, or the flames will feed on your people. The ground shook as the guardian slid back into the shadows, the vines still writhing at the base of the bleeding tree. Oba looked at her grimly. So we take some of the sap and head home? Amina nodded, though her hands trembled. She pulled out a small gourd from her bag and stepped forward. The red sap oozed slowly, its scent sharp and metallic. As it dripped into the gourd, she felt a sudden heat rise in her chest, as if the tree was watching her, judging her. When the gourd was half full, the ground rumbled again. This time it wasn't the guardian, it was the tree itself. The bark cracked, and a deep, guttural moan rolled through the forest. The vines at its base lashed outward like whips. One struck Oba's arm, leaving a red welt. He stumbled back, clutching his sling. Run, he shouted. They bolted through the twisting roots, dodging the whipping vines. Branches snapped underfoot, and the forest blurred past them. Only when the moaning faded into the distance did they stop, gasping for breath. Amina looked at the gourd in her hands. The sap inside pulsed faintly, as if alive. We have what we need, Oba said. Now all that's left is to find this oldest tongue, before the moon dies. Amina swallowed. She knew exactly who that meant, the oldest living person in Ibukun. But that was a problem. Because the oldest person in Ibukun had not spoken to anyone in 20 years. The journey back to Ibukun felt longer than the trip into the forest. Every step carried the weight of time slipping away. The gourd of red sap throbbed faintly in Amina's hand, its warmth a constant reminder of the danger waiting under the dying moon. When they finally reached the edge of the village, smoke from cooking fires curled into the air, but Amina couldn't enjoy the familiar sight. Her eyes went straight to the far end of the settlement, where a small hut sat apart from the others, its roof patched with palm fronds, its door always shut. "That's where she lives," Amina whispered. Oba frowned. "The silent one." Amina nodded. "Mama Ethan. She hasn't spoken since before I was born. They say her voice carries truths that cut like knives, so she locked them away." They approached the hut. The air around it felt heavy, like the forest's shadows had followed them home. Amina knocked gently. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. After a long moment, the door creaked open. An old woman stood there, skin as wrinkled as dried fruit, eyes sharp and knowing. She looked at Amina, then at the gourd in her hands. Without a word, she stepped aside to let them in. Inside, the hut smelled of dried herbs and old clay. Strips of animal hide hung from the walls, each marked with strange symbols. Mama Ethan motioned for them to sit. Amina wasted no time. "Mama, I need the name of the bleeding tree. My village is in danger. A spirit told me to pour its blood into the river at midnight under the dying moon, but I can't speak its name unless you tell me." The old woman's gaze was unreadable. She reached for a calabash of water, dipped her fingers into it, and began to trace shapes in the air, symbols Amina didn't recognize. Then she pointed to her throat, shook her head, and tapped her chest twice. Oba leaned toward Amina. "She's saying the name can't just be spoken. It has to be given from the heart." Mama Ethan's eyes narrowed, as if to say close, but not enough. She reached for a small basket, pulled out a piece of chalk, and wrote a single word on the packed earth floor. "Give." Amina's brow furrowed. "Give what?" The old woman pointed to the gourd of sap. Then she pointed to Amina's chest again. Realization struck. "She's saying I have to give part of myself to the tree before it gives me its true name." Mama Ethan's thin lips curved into the faintest of smiles. She took Amina's hand, pressed it against the gourd, and mouthed a single word, silent but clear. Amina felt it echo inside her mind. "Name." The gourd pulsed violently, and for a heartbeat, the room seemed to tilt. Then it was over. They left the hut without another word from Mama Ethan. Oba looked uneasy. "What did you give it?" Amina's voice was quiet. "Something I can't get back." "What?" he pressed. She looked away. "If we survive, I'll tell you." As night fell, the sky turned a deep violet. The moon was already thinning, its edges blurred like a smudged coin. They hurried to the riverbank where the whole journey had begun. The wind carried the faint smell of smoke from the hills again. The warning was becoming real. Amina knelt by the water, uncorked the gourd, and held it over the river. The red sap oozed toward the surface, each drop making the water shiver. She opened her mouth to speak the name Mama Ethan had given her. But before the first syllable could leave her lips, a shadow rose from the water, the goat with a human head. Its eyes burned brighter than before. "Child," it hissed, "do you think pouring the blood will save you? The fire is already on its way." The goat's human eyes glinted in the moonlight, its voice curling through the air like smoke. "You think you have won, Amina," it said, "but the forest does not give without taking. Pour the sap, and the fire may be turned. But the river will claim something in return." Amina's hands tightened around the gourd. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of burning grass. Closer now, sharper, almost in the village already. She lifted her chin. "If the price is mine to pay, then so be it." The goat's human mouth twisted into a grin. "So be it." Oba stepped forward. "Wait. You don't have to." "Yes, I do," Amina said. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "If I don't, everyone burns." She poured the thick red sap into the river. The moment it touched the water, the surface rippled violently, and the moon's reflection shattered. The air grew hot, then cold, then utterly still. Amina spoke the name Mama Ethan had given her. Once, twice, 3 times. The river responded. A low roar rose from its depths, and a wave of cool mist swept out, rolling over the land toward the west. It moved like a living thing, racing to meet the unseen flames. The goat watched, its eyes dimming. "The fire is gone," it said softly. Then its gaze sharpened. "But the debt is paid." Before Amina could react, her voice caught in her throat. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Panic flared in her chest. The goat stepped closer. "You gave the river your voice, just as the oldest tongue once gave hers." Amina's eyes widened. "Mama Ifan." That was her price too. The goat's form shimmered, the human face fading, until only an ordinary goat remained. It stepped backward into the mist and was gone. Oba knelt beside her. "Your voice, it's gone." Amina nodded slowly. Her throat ached, but there was no sound to give. Still, she pointed toward the village. They had to see if the people were safe. When they arrived, the villagers were gathered in the square, looking toward the west in awe. The night sky glowed faintly from distant fire, but it stopped far from Ibukun. Cool mist still clung to the air, and the people murmured about how it had saved them. Baba Musa rushed forward, pulling Amina into a hug. "You did something, didn't you?" he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Amina managed a small smile. She couldn't tell him, not with words, but she didn't need to. Her father's eyes filled with pride and sorrow all at once. Days later, Mama Ifan came to see her. The old woman placed a hand on Amina's shoulder and looked into her eyes with deep understanding. Then she drew a single word in the dust between them: brave. The people of Ibukun never forgot what Amina did. Though she could no longer speak, her actions spoke for her. She became a guardian of the river, teaching others to respect its power and the balance of the forest. And when children asked about the night the fire almost came, the elders would say, "Sometimes to save your people you must give up the thing that is most yours." And that is why the river still flows kindly past Ibukun.